What's going on, everybody? Good morning, good evening, wherever you are, and whatever time it is. And welcome back to yet another video with you, man. Immersionholic, and ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 2 of my Abbasid Caliphate campaign for the Medieval Kingdoms mod for Total War Attila. Ladies and gentlemen, in the last episode, we took over the Omani city of Bakhla on the northeastern coast of Arabia, and we now have access to even more spice trade in the region, which is very powerful for us. The Omani have retreated south to the city of Marib, and they also have an army in the southwest nearby, so we'll have to be looking to deal with that very soon. But in the meantime, let's check out the family tree. So, in the last few turns, all of our men of the family have become married. The heir Muhammad to the Caliphate is married, as is his son Jafar, and the current Caliph, who is now also the governor of Baghdad itself, Ahmed, is married. So hopefully they'll start producing some more heirs, but because we don't have more family members, we're going to start submitting basically governorships to all of our other nobles categories. So these nobles are men who serve our family directly, although they are not part of our family. So that is Muzaffar, Murad, and Jamil on the left-hand side of your screen. They are all being assigned certain office ranks as well as governorships. So Jamil was in charge of our cavalry contingent in the west, but Jafar will instead take that over. In the meantime, the Zagwe kingdom, the Christian Ethiopian kingdom in Eastern Africa, is declaring war on us. The only war we're involved in right now is against the Malakit of Oman. So we have no choice but to assume that the Zagwe are trying to help out the Omanis in defending themselves from our invasions. I mean, but at the same time, we're just trying to defend the holy city of Mecca. So we cannot tolerate this, of course. In the meantime, though, the Ayyubid Sultanate is being targeted by a bunch of different Christian factions. They've had a crusade declared against them, and Cairo is on the hit list for the Crusaders. Although, look at this disrespect that the Ayyubids throw in our face. Despite us being the leaders of Islam, at least in theory, they are sending a massive army towards Baghdad. Although we're not at war with them, but we have good relations, so it's unlikely they will attack. But Muhammad's son Jafar will be sent towards the city of Baghdad with his elite cavalry contingent. He's been supervising our colonization efforts in the west, in the deserts. And so now he will retreat back. He will take some attrition through that desert area, but it's okay. It's not too much of a big deal. And we need to show strength against the Ayyubids. In the meantime, the heir to the Caliphate, Muhammad, is leading his army down along the eastern Arabian coastline here, and we're looking to land around that circle I just showed you guys and take the city of Marib. We can hopefully take it before the Ayyubids do come down and help us defeat the Omani, although they are trying to be the pretenders of the leaders of Islam, so they might try and beat us there and defeat the Omani before they can attack the holy city of Mecca, of course. In the meantime, we will repair and convert the buildings in Bakhla, and that will become a major economic and basically commercial hub for us in Eastern Arabia, as the spices do help not just the city itself, but also our overall economy throughout our entire faction. So that will be very important to hold on to. And of course, we'll also need agriculture in the region. However, just as we send Muhammad down with his army along the eastern coastline, the Omani actually launch a counterattack to take the city of Bakhla back, and they're attacking us from the desert. So we're going to have to cancel our naval invasion, send our army back up to Bakhla, defend it against the Omani, and then hopefully once we wipe out that army, we'll be able to launch probably across land this time and try and take out the city of Marib. But we don't have any garrison at all whatsoever in the city, so the General Muhammad definitely has to get back in order to defend it. Make sure the Omani just don't take it back instantly, and we do get back in a single turn, so it shouldn't be too much of a problem. The Omani learn of our return, and instead of marching on the city, they instead just fortify their current position and hang out just outside an oasis on the edge of the desert. We try to chase them down, but they do end up running away back towards the city of Marib, and they are falling back across the desert, so our army is going to take a lot of attrition. The almost chosen army right here, under the leadership of Muhammad, is definitely going to be struggling, and the Ayyubid Sultanate is sending their massive army that was near Baghdad down here now to take the city of Marib. They really want to appear as the defenders of Mecca, and so they've gone way out of their way to come down and attack the Omani, but does it look like that we'll be able to stop them? Although their army does disappear for a couple turns, so we had no idea where the Ayyubids did go, and the Omani are on the eastern hills to the east of Marib. So instead we're going to try and go directly for the city, but you'll see how badly that goes. And you see it right here. The Ayyubids somehow come out of the fog of war and end up besieging the city before we can even get close to it. So the city of Marib will fall to the Ayyubid Sultanate, and then in the meantime the Omani are actually sending their army back northeast again across the desert to take the city of Bakhala back. It's very frustrating. We're chasing them down all across Arabia, and the entire time we're basically losing men to attrition for free. So eventually we did chase down the Omani army and order us over the way, so it's not too much of an issue. But we did waste basically a year, almost 2 years worth of time chasing down the Omani, basically rebels at this point. So at least now we do have a garrison in the city, and we don't necessarily have to garrison it with a proper army. But Marib did fall to the Ayyubids. Hopefully that city will rebel and we'll be able to come in and take it anyway, but right now we don't have the strength, or the practical strength at least, to take on the Ayyubids, but that will be a goal eventually, because we obviously want to be the defenders of Islam and the one central authority figure. But the holy city of Mecca is still definitely secure. It has a massive army plus a decent garrison, so it's okay. But in the meantime, we have a major development. The Caliph of the Abbasid Caliphate, Ahmed, is dead. Ahmed died of natural causes, at least allegedly natural causes, who knows, in court intrigue. But now Muhammad is now the new Caliph of the Abbasid Caliphate. Jafar is now his son, the heir to the Caliphate. And Muhammad also has another son who's basically a newborn. But yeah, Muhammad is 41 years old. He's doing very well as a general. Whether he'll be able to lead the Caliphate well or not, we'll have to wait and see. His son Jafar has the trait stupid, so that's not encouraging. But he is doing relatively well in the menial tasks he's been given. Jafar also has a son called Faiz, and then Muhammad has a son by the name of Aziz. So we do have more male potential heirs on the way, which would be very helpful. In the meantime, Caliph Muhammad is sending his army back north to Basra, and then he'll be marching towards Baghdad. And from Baghdad, he'll be recruiting more troops, because we have around 300,000 people living in the city of Baghdad. And then after he recruits enough troops necessary, we will finally begin marching north and attacking the city of Erbil from the Zengids. In the meantime, Caliph Muhammad actually gets peace with the Zagwe kingdom. Even though that they did declare war on us without just cause, we are looking and willing to basically forgive them and overlook this transgression, because Caliph Muhammad knows that we need to focus on consolidating our position in the north. And so we need to hurry up and do that. We did try and get some non-aggression pacts with the eastern factions, such as Khwarezmians and their client states. We've got a couple non-aggression pacts, but right now we need to just hurry up and start hitting the Zengid Atabagate very, very quickly. The Zengids are a long-time enemy of ours. They've taken a lot of territory off our hands, and now it is time for us to take it back from them and attack the city of Erbil. They have a fairly small garrison here, and the Caliph is leading a massive all-infantry army with very little cavalry. So it's looking good, like we'll take the city, but now it's time to see just how effective our forces are against the Zengids. Here we are on the battlefield, yet another siege. There's going to be a lot of sieges in this campaign. That's just kind of how a lot of the campaigns work throughout the 1212 AD mod. The AI often isn't too aggressive, so you do end up attacking their cities, and then you get attacked while they're in the cities. So we'll be seeing a lot of this. Look at this. Our arrows are absolutely darkening the skies as they begin bombarding the city. Spearmen and axemen leading the charge here. But all of our archers have the extended shot ability, so they are firing from very far away out of the range of the enemy skirmishers, although they won't be all that accurate and they won't really get all that many kills, but they are harassing the enemy the entire time, which is basically the point of all of these hundreds of arrows flying in and basically irritating to death the defenders. While that happens, the siege towers lead our two-handed axemen onto the walls in relative safety, although our axemen do have almost no armor. They have a shield tied to their backs and that's it, so They are definitely going to be exposed, and they will die quickly to enemy skirmisher fire. So our axemen are charging up over the walls right now, and hopefully they'll get more infantry support as they do create a little bit of space and breathing room for our own forces. Up here on the left-hand flank of the battle, we actually have unopposing troops getting onto the walls. So because of that, we will be able to very quickly outflank the enemy along the left side, as long as they don't transfer troops over there too quickly. But again, you can see in the background, arrows continue flying in and dealing not necessarily a lot of damage, but a lot of irritating damage, and it will cause some of the enemy units to rout. The battle continues, and we begin fighting for the central gate here. The majority of the Zengid forces are just garrison troops, so they are not doing very well. And our archers switch to flaming shot to try and do some severe morale damage, and we get a lot of routs happening across their entire front line. It's even hard to see the front line here because the troops are retreating so quickly, and our troops are very, very good, especially our two-handed axemen. So they're moving forward here. You can see me giving some movement orders to try and get around the rear of some of their last few remaining troops holding out. And with the UI turned on, you can see the enemy forces are basically tied down around the actual gate itself. We've managed to entirely outflank them along the left here. So now our swordsmen in the second wave are coming up over the towers, although we do have some flanking Zengid troops to deal with, and we will go chase them down eventually. The archers continue their bombardment. They have insane amounts of ammunition in this mod. They're just lasting forever and forever. There is one final unit of spearmen here by the Zengids trying to defend the gate, but very quickly they rout, and now our archers will instead be directed to just use standard shot, try and get some more kills on the enemy troops that come back from routing. But in the meantime, our infantry will continue pushing through the barricades, dealing with the enemy's siege equipment and trying to chase down their skirmishers, which are getting a lot of free kills on us. We lost an entire unit of swordsmen to skirmishers actually, so I've got to be a lot more careful with that, but I'm definitely still learning about the 1212 AD mod. But across the entire front line, things are looking good. We end up charging up the main street right here. Our two-handed axemen are finally engaging the enemy skirmishers. Once again, it's kind of hard to see the front line here, but our two-handed axemen are backed up by our swordsmen, and the skirmishers are getting annihilated very, very quickly in hand-to-hand combat. They're just not built for it. Turning the UI on, you can see just how well our troops are doing. The skirmishers are melting away, and the rest of their troops have basically been all but wiped out. There is but one unit left here up the main street along this red arrow. You can see it's pretty much clear except for the captain of the garrison. I believe this was also the governor of the region. Yeah, it was. So this is not only a captain of the garrison, but this is the governor of the city. He's here in his little aquatic looking attire here, full chainmail helmet, very long sword in hand. He's ready to try and die defending his city that he was designated with. He is shooting some arrows down with his troops down below, but it doesn't matter. Our spearmen are now getting involved. They are completely fresh. They've hardly fought in the battle, and this is exactly the kind of charge that the governor's personal bodyguard does not want to be receiving. We have a massive swarm of spearmen coming uphill from the front, and while they are fighting uphill, the enemy cavalry did not get a good charge, and in the meantime, in the rear, our two-handed axemen have swept through the rest of the city, annihilating all enemy forces. And now they outflank the enemy governor, strip him from his horse, off with his head, and the city falls just like that. And just like that, the city of Erbil falls. Although we did take some pretty heavy casualties on a couple of our units, you can see that our two-handed axemen and our swordsmen did fantastic. We're probably going to need a lot more of those units when we're fighting to take cities in particular. Although fighting in the open, it's going to be harder for those guys to be of a lot of use, but we'll see what we can do. And these battles are relatively quick. That entire siege lasted only 12 minutes, as you can see in the loading screen, so this is definitely similar to the vanilla Attila kind of time frame for battles. But that's okay, it's nice to change things up. We will peacefully occupy the city of Erbil. They are fellow Muslims despite them being Zengids, so we will of course treat them with respect and dignity. We are the leaders of Islam, not the tyrants nor raiders. We will go ahead and repair many of the city's buildings in Erbil, although we will probably convert some of them eventually and try and get some more appropriate buildings. But our army, the Almost Chosen, is doing relatively well. However, the integrity of the army is doing really, really bad. I'm not sure why it's so bad when we're doing so well with our battles with them. And we've hardly lost any troops. Perhaps it was the attrition in Arabia. But yeah, for whatever reason, the Almost Chosen, even though it's led by the Caliph himself, is on the verge of mutiny. And while they aren't going to necessarily mutiny right now, it will be happening in the near future. At least there's a very good chance. So we need to be careful of that. In the meantime, though, we're very interested in taking the city of Hamadan from the Zengids. And then to the west, they also have their capital at Mosul. And then they have the very wealthy city of Aleppo that we'll be wanting to take. If we can take Aleppo, then that will be a very nice gateway into the rest of Syria and the Holy Land. But in the meantime, we've also set up another gateway in the city of Al-Jawf. That was a colony that we set up under the leadership of Jafar. Jafar did a very good job in setting it up. And so we now have a decent gateway into Damascus and the rest of Syria. But all of these X's here show that we have a lot of hostile desert attrition to take around the city. So Al-Jawf is not going to be a very great entry point into the west, but it will be a good defensive point at least. In the meantime, because we have expanded our cities, we now get a new level of Imperium. With this Imperium, we can assign up to 6 governors, which is quite a lot. But we are going to be submitting all the governors that we can. Unfortunately, we have to start taking governors out of the candidates category on the left-hand side of the screen. And one thing about that category is that you can't see the statistics of those governors. And so some of them will not be loyal, which is a problem for us. But we'll talk more about that later. In the meantime, the city of Erbil is now under siege from a massive Zengid army. They've launched a counterattack against us. And the Zagwe kingdom is once again at war with us. I don't know what their deal was. But man, these Ethiopians absolutely hated us. They just keep declaring war on us despite us having peace and not having any war with any of their friends. But apparently they didn't like the fact that we were taking over parts of Arabia and that we had launched an invasion against the Zengids. And so because of that, we now absolutely cannot forgive them. And peace is just not an option. So we need to worry about the eastern coastline there that I was just showing you. In the meantime, we look into attacking the Zengids at the city of Erbil, but it's not really an option. They do have a lot more cavalry than us, and their cav is better than us, and they have good skirmishers. So instead, we're going to have to wait with Caliph Muhammad inside the city of Erbil until the Zengids are willing to launch an assault. After a few months of besieging, they do send in a final peace offer to us in order to try and free the Caliph, who's stuck inside the city of Erbil with his troops. The Caliph absolutely refuses to bow down to the Zengids, even though they would technically be paying for it. And the Caliph refuses them outright, and as a result of that, the Zengids finally launch their assault on the city of Erbil. Here we are, ladies and gentlemen, once again back in the city of Erbil. We did just watch a siege in this city, however, now we are defending. The mist covers the enemy Zengid forces as they begin assaulting our walls. We have a lot of infantry in our army, which is excellent. But they have a lot of infantry as well, and they have a lot of siege equipment. So let's look at our army composition. In the rear, we have Caliph Muhammad alongside some reserve axemen that have been kind of depleted, so they'll hopefully be kept in reserve right there. We then also have 6 units of spearmen that will be diverted to different parts of the line as necessary. On the right here, we have more of our axemen right behind our archers, which are all along the wall here. They're trying to get as many kills as they can before the enemy gets close. And then behind all of our archers, we have one single line of swordsmen. And that's all of these smaller contingents here that you can see. And on the end of that little formation, we have our axemen on our left-hand flank. So hopefully that will be enough to defend the city. And then in the rear, just in case we need them, we do have our cavalry contingents. We have 3 units of cav, one of which is, I believe, is the governor of the city. So that governor will obviously be put to the test very, very quickly. He's only just been assigned the governorship. Our archers begin the battle by firing their flaming arrows at the siege equipment. But the enemy does not care, and they keep pushing forward very, very hard with their siege equipment. We just have the one catapult firing at them, and it's not doing very well at all. We do give a direct order here. They fire, it goes, and it absolutely misses. But it looked kind of cool, I guess. But yeah, we just don't have the siege equipment to knock out the siege towers very quickly, and so they will basically land the walls unmolested. We pull back our archers into the streets behind the main wall here, and now our swordsmen are getting engaged across the entire front. Unfortunately, you can see here on my left hand flank I was very slow to react to the enemy assault, and because of that we're not going to get very good charges against many of their units. So our far left hand side should be okay because it's axemen going up against skirmishers, but our center is going to be very, very rough indeed. The battle continues and our archers are getting harassed directly by the enemy skirmishers, and our spearmen are now being needed on the front line, so we're moving them out of their tight formation, which we kept them in to try and keep them protected from skirmisher fire, and now they will come in and back up the main line of swords, which are getting decimated. The enemy forces are really, really tough. They have some very nice infantry, and I think that they're basically a tier above our swordsmen when they have their swordsmen engage ours. So in the center of our formation, we're getting wrecked. The left-hand side of the formation is going okay, but now that the center is being freed up, they do have enough men to now outflank our troops on the left and right-hand flank. So basically, our wall defenses are kind of crumbling, and we're really relying on our spearmen to come in and help hold us in. But here you can see our center is entirely collapsed. Our troops on the left are about to be outflanked. As the red arrows indicate, the enemy forces are now splitting up and basically focusing their troops in two main areas near our left-hand gate and the right-hand gate. But our archers here in the second street are trying to back up our men, and because they're in the second street and they're shooting over houses, they'll actually be hitting the enemy in the left-hand side and behind in some cases, so that's excellent. So while that's happening, our cavalry was sent out under the leadership of the new governor. The governor leads a direct charge against the enemy infantry who was stationed out here with the cavalry, and their cavalry didn't support their infantry whatsoever, so we're going to get some beautiful charges here. The enemy swordsmen will last for quite a while, actually. This is the Jazeera infantry, I believe it is. They're very, very tough, and they took a lot of cycle charges to take down. But they will eventually get ground down without any support, and meanwhile the archers in the background are getting annihilated by our Ghulam horse archers. The Ghulam horse archers aren't shock cavalry, but they are heavily armored, so they should still do well enough on their charge. Beautiful charge coming in here, shuts down the swordsman finally, shatters them off the battlefield. While our cavalry were doing that, our spearmen are holding the second street behind the main line. Our archers are still firing in on the enemy skirmishers and their swordsmen. And so even though we've taken a lot of losses, we're starting to bottleneck the enemy, and our archers are doing excellent. Especially when we're using flaming shot where appropriate. But now that our cavalry outside the city has taken out the enemy infantry, it's time to charge down their general, and he takes a brutal charge to the face. Absolutely not ready for it. And then the rest of the enemy horse archers are running away, and while our horse archers are going to take some losses in chasing them, they're heavily armored, so we're going to chase them off to the edge of the map. And in the meantime, the battle here is now starting to very steadily fall back into our favor. The majority of the area here has been wiped out of enemy forces. You can see the cavalry here getting involved. That's Caliph Muhammad leading his troops and his personal guard into the fray. And we have one unit left of enemy spearmen on the walls, basically trying to fall back onto their siege towers, but they don't have the coordination and they're getting cut down. Enemy archers are being defeated at the northeastern gate over here as well, so that bodes well for us. And then in the meantime, the enemy general is getting ground down by a spearman unit and one of our cavalry units, so this is absolutely perfect for us so far. And the enemy general just dies as well. Our spearmen combined with our cavalry is more than enough to take him on. And then as the general dies, his personal guard goes into a short frenzy and tries to fight and protect his body. However, they will all fall, and as the personal guard begins to retreat off the battlefield, so does the rest of the Zengid army. We win the defense of Erbil. And here we are at the statistics screen if you want to have a cheeky look. You can see we took a lot of losses. Our axemen got absolutely annihilated, and they did do okay with their kills, but some of our spearmen units really took a lot of losses for not much gain. So we need better heavily armored units, basically. Our axemen have no armor, and some of our spearmen that didn't do well also don't have very good armor. That's the spearmen with the white garment over their head. They have almost no armor, so it's probably why they did so badly. But the city of Erbil is now defended. However, we get some terrible news. A new darkness is rising in the east as a people known as the Mongols begin rising out of the steppes of the far eastern plains and begin coming down into Persia, destroying all in their path. However, we will have to wait until the next episode to find out what their purpose is. So thank you all so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I shall see you in the next one.